What's up, family? How are you guys doing tonight on Friday for Mental Health Fridays? I hope you guys are ready. I hope you guys are prepared to have this conversation. Let me just also let you guys know what Sunday's conversation is going to be about. On Sunday, in honor of our community member, Sid Smith, we are going to talk about HR1 and HR5 and what you all need to know about that. But today we're going to focus on this viral video, and I'm trying to locate the video so that I can share it with you guys. But it's a viral video in which a mom on TikTok recorded her makeshift jail where she placed her son in a closet. And I'm going to show you guys the video. Hopefully, I don't get another strike on YouTube. I just violate all types of rules. And I don't like doing it because I want to make sure my channel stays open, but I also want to make sure that I give you guys the information that you need. So nonetheless, as I was saying, I'm going to share the video of the mom who made a makeshift jail to put her son in. And we're going to have that conversation. I'm going to bring some things to your attention today on Mental Health Fridays. But in the meantime, in between time, I want you all to do me some favors. You know, it's housekeeping time. I need you all to go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you are on YouTube and hit the bell so you could be notified whenever I go live. Give the video a thumbs up, and to my anywhere from 3 to 39 haters, go ahead and give the video a thumbs down. Whatever you decide to do, just engage and interact with the channel. For my Facebook community, go ahead and give me all the different options: hearts, caring, loves, likes, angry faces, wild faces, whatever you do, just make sure you interact. Whether you are on Facebook or you are on YouTube, I need you guys to do me a favor and make sure you share the video so your community can know that we are on. I'm going to keep the video clean tonight if I don't slip with my filthy mouth. But I'm going to keep it clean tonight because I know there are some people who have their children watching, and I want you all to be able to share the content with your children if you feel that it will help your children. So I'm going to keep this video PG-13 tonight. I might say a damn, what the hell? I might say something like that. But for the most part, it's going to be clean. And last but not least, I want to thank you guys all for your donations. I'm going to give you guys all the donation information for those who are donated. And on Sunday, I'm going to do it on Sunday. I just figured maybe Sundays I can just go over the donations so I don't feel like I'm doing this all the time. But I do want you guys to know that I'm very much appreciative of everything you have done to help me stay with this channel and to help me as I research things and bring things up for your information, right? So I thank you for all of your participation. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, somebody's saying thank you for introducing her to Michi X. Oh, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. This is from Brownie. Hey, Doc. Thank you so much for introducing me to Michi X. I'm in love with her channel. Oh, wow. Well, you're welcome. I'm glad I'm able to do that for you. From time to time, to those who are new in the audience, I'm going to put some comments up on YouTube. Of course, my community members who joined the channel, their comments will get first place priority all the time over everybody else. And it's not to be mean or anything like that, but they are the ones that continuously pour into me. So I would definitely answer their questions and highlight their responses. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to bring up this video. We'll start there. Just in case some of you guys have not seen the video. Now, I want to prep you and prepare you to keep your emotions on the back burner. All right. Do not get overly excited about this. Do not just jump to conclusion. Do not say all types of crazy things. And most importantly, to the degree in which you can control yourself, do not, bash this mom. Let's just take it easy for a moment. Let's just watch the video. Think about the video and see it from multiple perspectives, because this is Mental Health Fridays. This is where we have to actually start to think about what we are seeing and try to have some understanding and then look at ourselves to see how we're showing up. That's really what it's about. It's about our community getting better at what we are doing or correcting the things that we are not doing that we ought to be doing. So it's not a judgment call. I have to be able to say this because I know there are going to be some members of this community who may agree with this mother's practices or who have done this themselves. Okay. And I don't want our community members to feel shame because we do a great job in the Black community of shaming people, right? Shaming our community. We let the others, y'all know who the others is, right? We let the others get away with murder, baby. Murder. But when it comes to our community, we are quick to shame, or we get defensive and offended easily when it comes to our community. So I want to be able to say, I'm going to share this video. I want you guys to sit on your emotions. Just try your best to sit in your discomfort and try not to jump to conclusions, because what I'm going to share with you guys might be some information that some of you guys do not know about that can help you, or it might help you to look at things a little differently to try to get a handle on your frustrations when it comes to having children who are disobedient. Now, there's some language you're going to hear in this video describing children that I don't subscribe to. I do believe that children can be disobedient, but some of the terms, and I understand that some people are going to agree with her, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just cautious with how I label my children, and therefore I don't want to label somebody else's child that way. But I also understand where she's coming from, because catch me on the wrong day, I might say the same damn things about her child that she said. Not my child, but her child. Right? So we want to be able to go through this. So go ahead, family, share the video as I prepare to bring it up, and give the video likes, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Facebook and all my other channels. So let me bring this video up. Give me 1 second. I didn't properly prep this video. So, okay. Here we go. Thank y'all for your patience. Here we go. And
all other social medias. When you have a disturbed son, a very badass child who don't listen and don't think that you can send them to jail, you bring the jail to your house. Inmate Johnson, what is your number?
0804207.
As you see, he has his socks and drawers, he has his towel and hygiene. He will be only coming out for what?
To use the restroom, wash my body, and brush my teeth, eat.
Okay. Basically, you're on restriction. Jail, y'all don't get to have fun. You get to come out to eat, wash your body, use the bathroom, and so Snapchat and all other social medias. When you have a disturbed son, a very badass child who don't listen and don't think that you can send them to jail, you bring the jail to your house. Inmate Johnson, what is your number?
0804207.
As you see.
okay, so that's all that we need to see for now, right? Somebody said, I'm just saying that's a nice size closet, isn't it? Woo, baby. So let me say this. I've been listening to different people on YouTube. YouTube, the people who are actually talking about this. And many of them are from men, right? And a lot of guys are saying that they don't see anything wrong with this, and this can teach her child a lesson. There are some people, of course, that's saying that She's going to catch herself a CPS case by doing something like that. So you have some mixed opinion. There's people who are saying, listen, it's okay. There's people who are saying that it's not okay. Now, I'm not here to tell somebody what to do with their child, but this is Mental Health Fridays, and we are going to have to explore this stuff. Somebody says I'm frozen. It's okay. So family, am I frozen? Does anyone else have me frozen? Right? Anybody else have me frozen? Right? So I need you guys to let me know, am I frozen? Okay, so he said I'm good now. Great, great. Okay, good. I'm good. All right, great. So let me tell you something. Like Kevin is saying here, never thought of this. Maybe not a horrible experience idea. Well, let's talk about that. When you say maybe not a horrible experience idea, let's really explore that. Idea I want you guys to know about. And I'm going to spend the first part of this video discussing the experiment idea. Okay, so some people saying that I'm in and out. I'm in and out. Am I okay, guys? Am I okay? Because I don't want to get started if I'm frozen. Okay, somebody say I'm frozen again. Family, I'm sorry for the interruption. Thank you guys for your patience. Don't log off if we get messed up. Do not log off because I'm going to come back on. But let me know if okay, somebody says I'm back. Great. Great. All right, good. Let's hopefully I don't get frozen again because this conversation is so important. If you guys are just logging in, you did not miss anything. I'm just getting started. What I am talking about is this mom, a TikTok mom who has gone viral, and she had placed her son in a closet that she turned into a jail just in case you guys lose me. And in that process, she had his underwears, she had his socks, a towel, body wash, a bed, and a pillow. And she's saying that this is where he will be. And he is not allowed to do certain things, right? Because she's simulating a prison. She's saying that you're going to learn. She described her child as being bad. And she said, this is what you're going to have to go through in order for you to learn. So I know some people want me to go in on this lady, but I'm not. I'm not. Because the first time I saw this video, I'm going to be honest with y'all. When I first saw this video, especially those of you guys who know me personally, I see my sister Michi X is in the house. Shout out to my sister Michi. Shout out to my sister Michi. Y'all make sure y'all go ahead and give her a fat shout out. And don't be disrespectful. You know, whether you like her or not, she my sister. So if I like y'all and love y'all, y'all should like and love my family. She's my family. So go ahead and give her a shout out. Here's what I'm going to say. When I first saw the video, I was a little shocked. Now, Michi knows me personally. You know, I said this to you guys the other day in the video. And I told you guys how I slept at her house. She slept at my house. We know each other personally. So Michi, I know she can know right now when I said that I was shocked. She knows that she knows how my children are. She knows how I am as a mom. She knows how I am as a woman. So she knows that certain things initially might shock me, right? It might shock the hell out of me. But then when I sit back and I look at it from another person's perspective, I'm able to be a little bit more understanding and to remove the judgment. So I try to look at things from multiple angles. That's the kind of person I am. I try to say, before I jump to conclusion and be hard on this woman, because everybody across America, especially the Black community, because the Black community, I love you guys, but sometimes we suck as a community. Sometimes we're harsh, we're shaming, we're nasty, we're vile, we're competitive, we're dangerous toward each other. Sometimes this is what happens. So I said, before I add on to the negative energy that I'm sure this mother is receiving, let me step back and let me try to look at this in another light. Now, I want to be able to say, would I do it? No, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. But what this mother did is not that much different than things that are happening right now in the legal system that they have set up for children. And we're going to get there in the video. So let's first start with Let's first start with a 1971 study. Are any of you guys familiar with the Stanford experiment? The Stanford experiment. This is an experiment that happened in 1971 in the basement of Stanford University. And it was a psychologist, a researcher. He wanted to see what would happen. What would happen with the guards versus the prisoners if he simulated a prison population? He wanted to see their behavior. Now, you know, those of us who are in social sciences, we study behavioral responses. We study you guys, right? That's why when some of y'all, especially on my Instagram page, y'all got to go ahead over to my Instagram page. Y'all got to really check out my Instagram page. But, you know, I put up certain things because I want to see how people respond. And some people, ladies, some people are some emotional beings and they start wilding out. It doesn't matter. Some people are easily triggered and they respond so aggressively. If you don't agree with them, it gets even worse. It gets like unbelievable. And this is on social media. Social media is not real per se. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, my life is real. Michi's life is real. What we show you guys, we're real. But social media, for the most part, is not real. And people just go off. So I can imagine what the psychologist was thinking about when he decided to do this study, because it's very intriguing to study people. It's very intriguing to see how we can shift people's environments. We can control you guys, the way you think and the way you behave. Y'all ain't gonna like to believe this, but I'm just saying. Somebody saying they heard of the Stanford experiment. Good. I'm just saying, listen, the human brain is very fragile. Very fragile. We can really control you guys' behavior and your behavioral responses. It's so easy to control you because a lot of you guys don't master your brain. This is Mental Health Fridays, right? We're talking about the truth, right? We're talking about the truth. So don't get offended. But a lot of people don't master their brains. Like they don't have any control over things that they do. They're just so reactive to what goes on in the environment. So the psychologist, he sets out with the Stanford experiment, and he go ahead and he puts out an ad out there, and he recruits. He tries to recruit as many people as possible. And out of 70 men who stepped up to say, I'm going to volunteer for this experiment, he actually chose 24 of them. And 12 of them were volunteers that were serving in the role of correction officer. And 12 of them were volunteers who were serving in the role of prisoner. And what he wanted to do is study how people respond to a cruel environment. Oh, I hope you guys are taking your notes and I hope y'all listening. I really do hope you guys are listening because I know some of y'all got some very unique parenting approaches and discipline approaches. So you guys really need to take this all in and listen to what I'm saying. What he did was he took the guards and he gave the guards power. And he set the whole scene for them in order for them to play the part of a correction officer, even down to the type of glasses he chose or the shades that he chose for these guards to wear. They were the mirrored shades. You know, the shades where you can see yourself in it, but you can't see the person's eyes. And the reason why he chose these shades for the guards to wear is because this type of shades, when you can't see somebody's eyes, it dehumanizes the process. You see, that's why, sidebar, just a little sidebar. That's why when somebody approaches me, and it ain't the summer, listen to what I'm saying. If somebody approaches me, a guy, so to speak, and it's not the summer, and he's trying to kick game, and he got on shades, no play. No play. You get no response from me because I can't see your eyes. I'm like, hi, how you doing? Yes. Have a nice day. And I keep it moving, right? Because you can't see the person's eyes. It's a dehumanizing process. And they did that on purpose. So you guys don't pay attention to stuff like that. You wonder why they create these kind of things, right? See, a lot of things in business requires a psychologist or somebody in the social sciences field that studies people to give their feedback and their understanding from a lot of products that you guys are using. There's a lot of psychology that go into these things. So they buy these things on purpose. On purpose. Because they don't want you to be able to look at the person. Because when you can look at the person's eyes, you see them as human. And he wanted to remove that from the process, right? Somebody's saying the eyes are the window to the heart, right? That is what has been said. That is what has been said. And so when he did this, it helped the guards to play an even more serious role, right? And get into it and be stoic, because now the humanization of who they are have been removed. And so they're really playing a part. And it was this one guard, his name, he was coined the name John Wayne because he was such a rebel. He decided that he was going to step up the process. He was like, look, everything is going too smoothly, so let me get more aggressive. Let me start to step up the process. And he started to get really, really mean to these prisoners. And the prisoners obeyed. They started to fall in line eventually. So how the prisoners were referred to, just like you saw in the video, when she said inmate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever his number is, right? The prisoners were referred to as numbers as opposed to a name. So you want to refer to the prisoners as a number, right? Prisoner 2378. You want to do that because you're removing the name from them. And when you remove somebody's name, you take away the fact that they are human. You make them just an object. You dehumanize them. It's a process. And that's what they did. And what they did was they started to get aggressive and violent toward the prisoners, making them do a lot of things that are considered corporal punishment in order to keep them in line, in order to control their behavior responses while in the prison. Now, it's funny that in this experiment, the Stanford experiment, just like the video that we saw on the mom, they had divided classrooms, because remember, it was in a basement of a university. They had divided classrooms to be prison cells with 3 beds in there, and the people slept over, right? It was 3 beds in there. And when you earned yourself a punishment because of behavior or being disobedient, whatever the case is, just like in this video with the mom, they moved the prisoner from the classroom jail setting with the 3 beds in there to a closet. In the closet was where the prisoners who got in trouble, where they slept. And that was considered solitary confinement. Now, for those of you guys who know about solitary confinement, you know that that can have a very dangerous effect on the brain, correct? You do know taking someone away from society, away from socialization, interaction. You do understand that that has a very severe effect on the brain. Shout out to Here for Truth. Thank you so much for that donation. I really appreciate that. You do understand that. If you remember the documentary that is out on Khalid Browder, remember that documentary? That was the young man in New York City where he was awaiting his trial, and in the process, he was locked up in Rikers Island. And much of his time was spent in solitary confinement because he was getting his behind whooped in the prison. And so they was putting him in solitary confinement to try to keep him away from Gen Pop, right? And so that really messed up his mind because you're not doing anything. There's no sunlight. There's no engagement. There's no exercise. I mean, think about us during COVID. Think about how we are during COVID, right? We have no socialization. Now, isolation has been very crucial for a lot of people under this COVID situation. It's not good in your health. Some people are gaining weight. Some people are losing large amounts of weight. They're not socializing. Children are in the house going crazy. So just imagine taking your closet, and his closet was like the size of my closet, right? This is a walk-in closet. Taking his closet, removing everything from it, and putting a twin-size bed in there. There's no window. There's no air. There's no circulation. And sticking this young boy in this process, in this closet, right? Just like Michi's saying, she says here, Sitting in the hole in jail is no joke. It does something to the mind. It's meant to break you down. And so it causes people to go crazy. And this is what they did in this study. Now, the guard volunteers in this Stanford experiment did not believe that the prisoner volunteers were actually experiencing a mental breakdown. And even though the prisoners or the volunteers in this experiment was expressing that it was becoming heavy on them, the guards didn't believe it because, the guards are playing a role. So they're thinking, nah, I mean, ain't no big deal. No big deal. They're lying. They just want to get out of this role. So they kept it going. But what was actually happening is these volunteers started to actually experience mental breakdown. And so the prisoners did not take this seriously. The psychologist who was studying it, he also got into role. He was like the warden. He made the decisions of what was going to happen, right? When they came to speak to him to ask to be moved or to be taken out the project, he played the role of warden. So his goal was to keep them in the project as long as possible. So everybody is in full effect. Everybody's in full effect and not realizing that this whole made up situation is taking on a form and a life of its own. So the prisoners are now being humiliated by the guards, right? They're having to repeat chants that also led to their mental breakdown. Chants, different type of chants. Prisoner 8145 is a bad person. Prisoner 8145 is a bad person. Prisoner 8. So now prisoner 8145 hears constantly that he's a bad person and it's weighing on him. It's making him feel bad. I told you when we first started that experiments are happening on us every day. And certain populations of people, especially, have studied our population of people for a very long time. For a very long time, right? And so when you study somebody long enough and you test them and you put them in different experiments, you know how they're going to respond and behave. And if you do something long enough, if you do, listen to what I'm saying, family. If you do something long enough, you will start to believe it as true. Right? Y'all listen to me, family? You play a role long enough, you will take on a personification of the role that you were playing, and you will start to believe it to be true. Right? You will start to believe it to be true. So when I think about what was happening in this experiment, it was both demeaning and dehumanizing. Locking people in closets, taking away their privileges, humiliating them, making them do excessive crunches and push-ups, calling them names, yelling at them, feeding them garbage. That's what they was doing, right? And so when you do that, not only were the volunteer prisoners taking on a personification of a real prisoner, but the volunteer guards was taking on that as well. So let me just stop for just a moment to highlight what I'm saying in terms of this video. In order for her child, according to what the mom did, in order for her child to learn the lesson, she has to take on the role of CO, and her child has to take on the role of prisoner. Because if not, you just change the bedroom into the closet and that's where the child is sleeping, right? So you have to get into role. And so when you think about how the mind works, I personally think that this is a very dangerous experiment to do with one child. And I know a lot of people like this, right? I know a lot of people think that she didn't do anything wrong. And this is not about right or wrong. This is about the psychology of a child's mind. He was young. I think he was like 7, 8 or something like that. This is about the psychology of a child's mind and the impact that it might have on him. And it may not be in the way she wants it to be. It may not be a positive impact because, see, trauma is something you don't want to play with. There's a lot of people, including right here, watching this live as it is, right? There's a lot of people right now. Trauma, there's no telling when you're going to heal from trauma. Trauma is a lifelong process. So we don't know the extent that people will go when they do things like this. We don't know the extent that they would go and how much trauma it will cause on a child's brain. You got to be careful about this. But let's go ahead and get back to the discussion. But let me pause because I see somebody asking me a question. Give me a second. Okay, then, Dr. Shonna, let me ask you this. Which do you think is worse? What this parent did to her son or what the parents of children is scared straight did? I think they're both bad. So why does it have to be which is worse? Why do we have to have a dichotomous mindset? Why do we have to pick an either or? Why can't we look at all things and examine it for what it is? Why do we have to say, choose one, which one is worse? No, they're both worse. That's why that program is not on anymore. Right? So you got to understand that this study that this psychologist did, what he proved was that even decent people who have morals, belief systems, even they are capable of committing acts against their conscience, meaning things that they're doing. When you play a role, when you get into role, you may not be aware of what your subconscious mind is telling you and what your subconscious mind is causing you to do. So you may not have control over the extent in which you're able to take something. Some people say, I don't know how it got that bad. I wasn't planning for it to get that bad. Right? So you got to think about it. When you take on this aura and you say, I'm going to live this out because you need to learn your lesson, you have to play the role full. And playing it out full might do more damage than what you consciously intended to do. I don't think that anyone who does anything like this sets out to damage their child. What I am saying is damage comes as a consequence of such an experiment. That's what I'm saying. You got to understand the breakdown process that one has to go through in order for them to feel the consequences of their actions. Thank you so much for that donation, Rakeem. Says the inner peace is the eternal bliss and blessings. Keep up the positive work. I really do appreciate that. Much respect and much love to you. So here's what I'm saying. Here's the process. Look at the breakdown for those of you guys who are familiar with the Stanford experiment, and for those of you guys who just got my cursory overview of it. You can go ahead and watch the documentary. It's only going to take you 30 minutes to an hour to watch it, depending on what broadcast you watch, and you will learn a lot about this experiment. But nonetheless, it first started with the degradation process. And I'm going to pair this off with what the mother did. And again, you guys can do whatever you want to do. This is Mental Health Fridays. I'm just asking you guys to take your emotions, put it on the back burner, and just think a little bit. Don't get in your bag. Don't get offended, right? Don't start acting all defensive and arguing with each other, right? This is just, let me just really think about this. When you study somebody or a situation long enough, when you study a situation of somebody long enough, you pretty much can tell what's the outcome going to be. That's why we have research. That's why there's studies. I mean, this was an inhumane research, and they don't do research. Well, you know, some people are slick, right? They're not supposed to do research like this anymore. It doesn't mean that they stop, but on the records, they don't do research like this anymore on the records. But they did it because they want to understand it. Now, this is only 1971. How many of you guys, like me, are 70s babies, right? How many of y'all born in the 70s? So really just think about that. This is 1971. It wasn't that long ago. So we can't turn around and say, oh, you know, this research is old. It don't apply anymore. It does apply. That wasn't that long ago. So let's talk about the breakdown process, and we're going to compare it to this video that we saw with this mom, the one that put her son in a makeshift jail. There's a degradation process. When you degrade somebody, that breaks down their spirit. It breaks down their self-esteem, their sense of self, right? It breaks it all the way down. Shout out to Parnell for that donation. I really do appreciate that, right? It breaks it down. You have to first break these prisoners down in order to get the results that you're looking for, right? In order to control their mind. So you can't come into this with a strong mind. If you see somebody with a strong mind, think about it. We see this all the time. You see somebody come through and they look confident, they look strong. What do? The first thing that happens in the school system, let's talk about a school setting. Anyone's ever been bullied before? Not me, because I fight back, but maybe people have been bullied before, right? So I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty sure that some people could probably say once in a while I was a bully. I don't like to own that, but when I look back on some of the things that I did, I was like, yeah, bitch, you was a bully. You were terrible to some degree, right? To some degree. Or maybe I was just mean. I don't know. I grew out of it. Thank God I grew out of it. But if you really think about it, what happens with the bullying process? The first step to breaking down your target is to degrade them. To degrade them. You want to mess with their mind. You want to change the way they see themselves. So you make fun of them. Right? You call them names. You slap their stuff on the floor. See, I was going to say you slap their sugar honey iced tea on the floor, but I remember somebody sitting their feet at their grandmama was watching. So I'm trying to be respectful, folks. So grandma won't be like, that girl got a filthy mouth. But that's what you do. You degrade them. You try everything possible to break down their spirit so they can shift the way they see themselves. Right? That's what the guards were doing. So when I think about this experiment with the mom, I have to sit back and I have to say to myself, in order for her to keep up this experiment, what is she doing in the degradation process? How is she degrading her son? I mean, besides taking it live and making him sit on the bed as she's recording him and making him chant or repeat things back, besides doing that, I'm talking about what we cannot see. The cameras aren't rolling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but there has to be a degradation process to shift their thinking. So what kind of things is being said are done? Now, I'm not saying this mom is doing it. I'm just explaining to you guys the process of how you have to gain control over somebody. You can't gain control over somebody who has a strong mind. You have to first destroy the way they see themselves. All right, listen, y'all think I'm making this stuff up? If y'all don't mind being so transparent. So, I'm not asking you guys to be transparent, but who has experience in the prison system? And did you see this process? Did you experience the guards doing things to mess with you psychologically? Did you experience other prisoners doing things to mess with you psychologically? So you got to understand, the taunting is not just from the guards. The guards also set it up for the prisoners to taunt you as well. Right? So when I think about this young boy with this experiment his mom is doing, and the fact that she said in the camera, you guys didn't see that part, but it's a part in the camera where she says, and you want to know whose idea was it? She flipped the camera around and she showed one of her friends, or I don't know if it was a friend, I don't know if it was a family member, I don't know if it was a lover, but it's another female. And she shows the person, she says that was her idea, and she turns the camera back on herself, right? So how many people are involved in a degradation process? How many people are turning against him so that he can feel alone and there's nobody to advocate for him? There's nobody to protect him. There's nobody to support him. So you got to remove those things. You got to remove the advocacy. You got to remove the support. You got to remove the protection in order to break the person down, the degradation process. Y'all following me, family? Let me know. Let me know. Right, let me know if you're following me. Right? Right? If you're not following, y'all, if y'all not interested, y'all just let me know. I hope y'all interested. I hope y'all interested. The second stage of the breakdown process is rebellion. See, because the prisoners are going to try to rebel back. They're going to try to get some type of control over what's happening to them. So in this experiment, the Stanford experiment, they started to do different rebellious things. Somebody went on a whole hunger strike. Some of them try to barricade the door in to keep the guards from coming in. They were doing just different things to try to rebel against the forces that were trying to control them. So if you lock somebody in a small space long enough, they're going to try to get out of that situation. So for this young boy in his home, his rebellion might look differently, right? You got to be careful with this kind of things. I can't even imagine how it would look for him, but do understand that if you keep somebody in that situation long enough, their human response to it is to get out of it because it's painful. And we as humans, we're not designed to endure pain. So he's naturally going to want to try to get out of this. He's going to naturally try to do things that would be rebellious. Now, how it might look, I don't know. He could be punching on the walls. He could be kicking the door, right? Where he gets out for a little bit and he's being taunted maybe by siblings. He might try to bust one of them siblings up because his way of fighting against what's happening to him. And you got to understand. Right? The third part of the breakdown of what happens when you do these kind of experiments is the harassment stage. The guards have to constantly harass the prisoners. And usually this harassment comes in various forms of corporal punishment. Squatting, holding your hands out, holding books on your hands. In some cultures, especially the Hispanic culture, I don't know if you guys are raised in the Hispanic culture, any of you guys, but if you are, or some type of Caribbean culture, you know about the kneeling on rice. When you put the rice on the floor and you make them kneel on it as a form of punishment, those are the things that you would do. It's like harassing a person, it's corporal punishment, because your goal is to bring pain to the person. Again, this is all part of breaking someone down. And then after you do that kind of stuff long enough, it's going to go into a psychological meltdown. And that's of the prisoners. They're going to psychologically begin to melt down. So we saw that documentary is on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, the Khalif Browder story, you see what happened to him, right? He psychologically began to deteriorate and break down to the point of when he came home, he still couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't adjust. He couldn't get the thoughts of what happened to him out of his head. He couldn't heal. The trauma was too much. He killed himself. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen in this woman's home, but what I'm saying to you is you gotta be mindful that when you do these kind of experiments, you are playing with someone's brain. And the brain is very fragile. And I know some of you guys are just joining me, but I said at the very beginning, when you are in the social sciences field and you're here to study, you're studying people, participants of your study, we want to see how people respond and how they react to things. So you set up these scenarios and you do it long enough to see how people are going to respond. A lot of you guys are test dummies right on social media. If you go to Netflix, is a wonderful documentary on Netflix. And I think it's a social media experience or the social experiment. I think it's called something like that, where they can control how you respond on social media. This is all from algorithms. This is all from the type of ads they put on your page because they know what you're going to do and how you're going to respond. And you do it unconsciously. You can't control yourself. So you got to be careful of the trauma, the amount of traumatic events that you place in somebody's mind, because then those traumatic events will take over their thinking and their response system. Be very careful. So like I said, I'm not here to say what's right or wrong. I'm here to give you guys the information. This is Mental Health Friday. If you don't want the information and you want to keep doing whatever you're doing as your form of discipline and structure, go ahead and do it. There's no judgment here. I'm not judging. I haven't judged a woman whatsoever. And I said at the very beginning of this video that I was not going to pass judgment. I was just going to give you guys scientific data and evidence that you need in order for you to make informed decisions of how you go about raising your children and disciplining your children. Do whatever you want. But I think that no matter what we choose, we ought to be informed of the consequences, no matter what it is in life. And I'm not just talking about disciplining. I'm talking about even if you're dating somebody, you choose to lie down with somebody, you ought to consider the consequences before you do it. You ought to consider how it should turn out. See, that's what critical thinking looks like. We should not just be doing things because we're acting out of emotions, because we're upset, we're angry, we're trying to prove a point, and we allow our emotions to take over, and we're doing things not realizing the consequences or the damage that we're causing to ourselves or others. Are y'all with me, family? Are y'all with me, family? Right? Good. I see y'all still with me. Good. Now, the next one is the fifth stage of this breakdown process, and it's called the conditioning process. Now, once you break them down to the core, now you have to condition them to act how you want them to act. But do understand, if you don't know what you're doing and you're experimenting with your child and you don't know what to do, you also have the potential to be conditioning them of how to avoid this situation in the future, but not necessarily how to change their behavior. Catch that with a glove. Did you get it? Did you get it? If you are not careful, you can condition your child on how to avoid getting back in the closet, but it doesn't guarantee that the behavior will change. And we see this in the prison system all the time. There's a lot of research on prison rehabilitation, how whether it works or it doesn't work, is recidivism. How often do they go back to prison? You see, you got to understand, some people get out of prison, they think they got smarter. Now they think that they can get away with stuff. I almost cursed again. Oh, this is really hard, y'all. But they think they can get away with stuff because they think that they realize where they went wrong and they try to outsmart the system again, and eventually they get landed back into prison. It's called recidivism. They haven't changed their behavior. They're just trying to be more strategic about how they go about getting caught, or at least how they go about preventing themselves from getting caught, is what I mean to say. So you gotta watch it. So I know I see some people in here, some people in here, they're like, I don't see nothing wrong with what she did. That's you speaking from your emotions. I mean, you don't have to see anything wrong. What I'm asking is that you look at things objectively. I'm asking you consider the consequences. I'm asking you take in the information that is known and apply it before you make a decision. Because you cannot assume that your way of disciplining your child is going to change behaviors. There are a lot of people, and I'm tired of that sorry behind argument. Well, if you just whip your child, it'll fix all of that. I got whooped. Ain't nothing wrong with me. I hear that all the time. But guess what? There's a lot of people in our community that got their behinds whooped just like you did, and they still ended up in prison. There's a lot of children and young adults that can get their behinds whooped, and tomorrow they turn around and do the same thing again. Right? So we got to really pay attention to these kind of things. So outside of the conditioning process, see, in this experiment, the Stanford experiment, what they had to start doing is once they broke down the volunteer prisoners, they had to start to condition them. They had them chanting certain things over and over again. So you understand how chanting works, right? I hope you guys understand how chanting works. See, there's a lot of things that have been a part of our African spirituality and our African culture, which many of you guys know nothing about, but that's cool. No judgment, no judgment. But there's a lot of things in the spiritual world that people have taken, and now they apply it to the cardinal world, the worldly world, right? And they use it not for good, but for evil. Chanting is very powerful. Do y'all hear me? Chanting is very, very powerful. And it can be done verbally and in words. Let me break something down for you guys. Hold on a second. Let me just say this. Somebody said, I never saw someone who got whooped and ended up still in prison. Really? I'm a social worker. I've seen plenty of them. What I think is lacking is the talk before and after the whooping and the inconsistencies you either going to discipline or not. I've seen plenty. Listen, family, Don't take my word for it. See, I've worked the system day in and day out. I see what it looked like getting phone calls as an investigator with child abuse and neglect. I see what it looks like getting phone calls. And guess what happens? A lot of those people that get their behinds whooped, right? They end up in a system too. They become the same way. They end up in a system. They wind up getting arrested. A lot of them do time in the system. A lot of their children wind up doing time in the system. A lot of them pick partners, lovers, boyfriends, girlfriends that did time in the system. Like, trust me, baby, it's no joke. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And you can go all out and see a lot of things. And no, at East Africa, I'm not mixing any issues whatsoever. I'm addressing certain things. In East Africa, for the record, Shonna is spelled for me Shonna. But I thank you for addressing my name. I appreciate that. But nonetheless, as I was saying, not mixing issues at all. I'm responding to my audience. And it's important to respond to the audience, right? But it doesn't take away the fact of what I'm discussing here. So getting back to the conversation of conditioning. So with that process, you have to start to condition them of how to respond and how to act. So you have them chant certain things, say things over and over again. You have them do routine things. See, you want people to do routine things so that you can get the structure and control their behavior. So once you do something routinely, it's like you no longer have to consciously think about it. You just automatically do it. That's what a conditioning process is. I want you guys to think about this for a second. When you get into your car and you drive to work, and you drive to work every day, the same route, the same location, the same turn, the same exit, everything that you do every day. And then on your off day, you decide that you're going to go somewhere else on your off day. You're not going to work, and you get off at the same exit that you would have gotten off if you was going to work. That's what conditioning is, right? That's what conditioning looks like. Thank you for that, Nisha. Sometimes we got to just, help certain people, because certain people just like to feel some kind of way. You got to understand, Nisha. I appreciate this. She said she's talking about the mental state of discipline. I appreciate that, Nisha. But let me help Nisha to understand, and everyone else to understand about some people that make comments, the comments that they do. You got to understand, Nisha, that most of the time it has nothing to do with me. Most of the times it has nothing to do with your comments that you may put that somebody responds to, but it has to do with the individual themselves. Because these are some very sensitive topics. And that's why I'm being very serious tonight. Y'all know, usually I got a lot of jokes. Y'all know I come through in a different way. But see, some people are not ready for my clinical state. That's why I don't do many clinical things on YouTube and Facebook, right? I do it on my Instagram channel because it's fun, and I do it about relationships. But some people are not ready for it. And that's why I don't think that social media is an appropriate space for clinical conversations, because it triggers people. And I'm not there to help somebody through their stuff. You see, when someone puts the mirror in your face, it's hard for you to look at yourself. It's very hard for you to look at yourself, your behavior, and your practices. So when you know that you're being convicted, you rather be defensive, because that's a defense mechanism. You turn against it. You push away from it because it's a mirror into what you're doing. It highlights your own behavior. So some things sometimes you have to just ignore certain people, and do understand that it has nothing to do with you. This person is coming from their own place of pain, their own traumas from their childhood, their own generational traumas. Some of these people, and I'm not saying necessarily anyone who is speaking on this chat, I'm just saying in general, some of the people on social media that engage people like me, who have the title, who have the authority and the license to diagnose and recognize certain things, who have the authority to go into court as an expert and speak on certain issues. Some people like that. They would say all types of things in the chat because it's really painful for them to hear it. It's very painful. So I don't take these kind of things personally. I'm going to keep on talking, and I'm going to keep on educating and sharing to those who want to hear. But those who don't want to hear, they can always log off, right? You don't have to mentally harm yourself by being a part of a discussion that you don't agree with. Think about that for a second. Think about the psychology behind that. And I say to you all the time, why would you stay on a channel or a page or converse or engage with people that you want to argue with? Why would you do that? It's one thing to ask questions, But when you start taking personal shots, or you become defensive or argumentative or rude and nasty, and I'm not saying anyone's doing that tonight, but I'm saying it does happen. When you start to do that, you're actually hurting yourself mentally, because now you're having an emotional response and you're not able to control your emotions. So that means that you have lost control. So that's called trigger, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That's called triggers. But I know a lot of people don't have control over their triggers. We see it every day. We see it every day. I highlight it every day. I watch it every day. But you have to understand the conditioning process. Getting back to the conversation at hand. When you go through these 5 things: degrading somebody, the rebellion, they're going to actually try to fight back to keep some humanity into who they are. Harassment, you set up harassment situations and corporal punishment, harassment for other peers, harassment from other authorities on purpose to psychologically break them down. Just think about the black man that gets pulled over constantly, or has an engagement with the cops constantly. And maybe this person did something in the past, maybe they didn't do anything at all, maybe they have a clean record, but they're constantly being harassed, constantly being humiliated, constantly being handcuffed, made to sit on the curb in front of everybody, or at their job, whatever the case is, being searched, the cars being searched, the house is being searched, can't find anything, and they're constantly being harassed. What do you think starts to happen to that person from a psychological perspective? Right? It gets real serious on the mind, because like I said at the beginning of this video, the human mind is very fragile, very fragile. When you do an experiment like this, you have to create the culture. And in this kind of experiment, like the Stanford experiment, 2 cultures were created. It was a culture created for the prisoners, the volunteer prisoners, and it was a culture created for the guards. Right? So when you are doing this experiment in your house, and it's a form of teaching your child a lesson, you have to create the culture in order to do it. So transforming the closet into a prison cell is creating a culture. Removing anything that reminds the person of freedom. Now you take away the clothes. The clothes you wake up every day and you put on is a form of freedom. So why do you think prisoners' clothes are taken away from them? It takes away their individuality. It takes away their freedom to be themselves. And everyone gets the same thing. You have no individuality. You have a number, and you have a system that you are going to be in, that you're going to be conditioned, and you are our body. You belong to us. That is what is being done. So you have to create the culture. So in creating the culture, I want you to ask yourself, what would be the consequences? What would be the effects if I create this culture, and how long will you live it? Now think about this Stanford experiment. This experiment was supposed to last for 2 weeks. Do you know how long this experiment lasts? Do you know how long it lasted? Who can tell me how long they think that this experiment lasted without Googling it? Don't go and Google it, right? Anybody? Before I tell y'all. Anybody? How long did this Stanford experiment? Okay, so Ramsey, you're very close. Thank you, Ramsey. You're very close. This experiment lasted for 6 days. See, I want y'all really to understand what I'm saying here, family. This experiment lasted for 6 days. 6 days, people started to psychologically break down. 6 days, people started to deteriorate. 6 days, that's all it took for it to fall apart. They didn't stop it because they wanted to stop it. They stopped it because it started to have grave consequences on the minds of the prisoners and the guards. 6 days. So think about when you put your child in a closet. 6 days is all it took. And they named that experiment inhumane. They stopped it. It was not ethical. It was not ethical. They said we cannot do this to people. And they stopped it. Yes, Tanya. Yes, Tanya. That's what I said at the beginning of the program. Our minds are very fragile. See, when you wake up every day and you just go about your life and you're not interested in social sciences or psychology, you don't really think about these kind of things. But those of us who get a kick out of it, and yes, it is a kick. I get a kick studying people. Not in a bad way, not in a sinister, evil way, but I do. I really enjoy watching people and studying them. It's very entertaining. I like seeing people get triggered. I like seeing people wild out. I'm like, damn. Somebody just said women are disrespectful, and look at all the comments. Oh, Father, if it ain't you, just ignore it. Why did it have such a psychological pull on you that you had to respond? Why couldn't you just ignore it? Because people don't have control and mastery of their emotions. That's how fragile the brain is. Right? Yes, thank you for pulling up the researcher. Yep. Philip Zimbardo said he wrote a good book about the experiment. Absolutely. He's still doing interviews. This is how dangerous this experiment was. This researcher is still doing interviews about this experiment. It had lasting effects on these people. And do you know that they went and they found all the people that participated in this experiment? They found them and they're interviewing them to this day to get their feedback and what their experience was, both the prisoners and the guards, and it still had an impact on them to this day. This is from 1971. They're a lot older now, right? 6 days. That's all it took was 6 days to break them down. No one intervened to stop anything, right? And what they found in the study was that the environment, when you create the culture of the environment alone transformed people who were ordinarily good. These weren't criminals that they brought into this experiment. These were college students. Many of them were college students. They were home from college. They were looking for work. The experiment paid back in 1971 $15 a day. And they said, you know what? I might as well just sign up and do it. Yeah, I'll do it. No problem. Right? I'll do it. No problem. These were good, decent people who participated in this experiment. And in 6 days, the environment transformed them. So I want to fast forward. We're almost done here, family. Right? I want to fast forward to 2015. There's a Superior Court judge, and I think she's out of Georgia, Macon, Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. Her name is Verda Colvin. Y'all have to look her up. Verda Colvin. She created a program called Consider the Consequences. And she had a video that went viral that was captured by a news audience. And she was seen in the video lecturing a group of young men about their behaviors and what was going to happen to them if they kept going the way they were going. And they were going to end up in jail, right? So this will speak to what I'm about to share with you guys, will speak to what the mom was trying to accomplish, right? I'm going to say trying to accomplish. And that's why I said I'm not going to judge what she did, right? I'm not going to judge what she did. I'm just going to give you guys evidence and facts of what happens, right? But this judge did what this mom was trying to accomplish. And what she did was created an early intervention program, as I stated, was titled Consider the Consequences. And this program was designed to show children and teens the possible consequences of their actions. And so a lot of controversy came out of this program as well. I don't know if the program is still in operation. You guys have to look it up yourself. But the controversy that came out of this was the impact that it had on the kids. If it did more damage than good, because of some of the things of what they saw on the video when the cameras were rolling, how some of the children were being treated. They were saying, we don't know if that was psychologically damaging to the child. And so the thing is, you don't know if something is psychologically damaging until you study somebody over a period of time. Now, I'm not trying to get all research technical, but those are called longitudinal studies, right? When you study something over a period of time and you follow your participants, your research participants, and you interview them at periodic points in their life and at periodic ages to see if it still has an impact. So you got to be able to do something like that to see if it had an impact before you could say it has no impact on somebody. It has no bearing. Now, we have a lot of research that shows us the impact that it has on people, because people have been studied for years. The same person, the same people have been studied for years. And so this judge had this program, and a lot of people praised the judge. And a lot of parents, a lot of single mothers were praising the judge for their program. Now, I don't know what happened to their children, because there are no interviews of these children as young adults, and we don't know if it actually worked, but we know in the moment, they were praising the judge. Now, I don't know if we went and interviewed them 10 years later, if they would still be praising the judge. They might, or they might say, well, my son wound up going to jail. We don't know. You got to study that. But here's the problem. I'm going to say this and I'm out. Right? That's why, Ida. I already said that, Ida. Yes, I said that earlier. Scare Straight didn't work. They stopped it. It's entertaining. It's great to watch for TV. But boy, oh boy, it didn't work. So here's the problem that I have. Or not that I have. Here's some problems that I noted. Because I'm not bothered either way. People do whatever they want to do. Right? There's consequences for everything. There's consequences for my actions. There's consequences for your actions. There's going to be consequences for her action. People get to do what they want to do. But here's some of the problems that I identified. Putting a child in a closet did not remove him from his environment. See, in his head, freedom is still possible. It's going to come because he's still in the same environment. He's still in the same home that his misbehavior occurred in. He's still in the same home with the same family household members that are still there, right? He still is being disciplined in ways that have not worked. I'm sure this is not her first disciplinary action against her child. I'm pretty sure she did other things that were not effective. So she resorted to the closet. So when you think about it, the child is still in an environment, so he hasn't really learned. He hasn't lost really the ability to see his family. He hasn't lost the ability to see his friends or anything like that. He's still in the home where he deems as safe. Possibly, I don't know if he deems it as safe, but he possibly sees his home as security and safety. His family members are there, right? Prisoners lose their family members. And some family members don't even have the wherewithal to even make it to the prison to visit their family members. That is not a luxury that prisoners have, but this child still has it. Another area that I say could be seen as a problem is broadcasting the discipline, taking it to social media. I'm not sure what this mother was hoping to accomplish when she took it to social media. But here's two things that I took away from it. And you guys can tell me what you took away from it. But here are two things that I took away from it. First and foremost, maybe initially you embarrassed him, right? Okay, all right. He might deserve to be embarrassed. Cool, no problem. You embarrassed him. Mission accomplished. But now that you took it to social media and the video went viral, he's now popular. Consider the consequences, family. He is now popular. And of course, so are you. But what do you think that's going to do for him? Do you think that's going to say, oh, I never want to do this again because now everybody knows I'm in a closet? Or do you think it's going to feed into the social media frenzy with having followers and likes and popularity? And what do you think is going to happen? I'm sure she didn't think that was going to happen. I'm sure not everyone was using critical thinking skills to see if that was going to happen. What do y'all think about it? What do you guys think about it? Right? Think about it. Would that help what you were trying to accomplish? Or did it actually reverse it? Because in 2021, popularity is very important. It's funny now. Now it's funny. I did that bid because now he think he rolling with the big boys. Now he think he did a bid. He survived the bid. And now he's popular. All the social media. Everybody's watching him. Everybody know how he look now. Right? Now he's popular. Congratulations, you have a social media star. The other issue that I wanted to point out that I started to analyze is think about this. What is his environment actually like? Not judging the mama. We see the mama. That that don't mean nothing. Her appearance doesn't mean anything. So don't judge her for her opinion, her appearance. But do ask critical questions. What kind of intimate relationship she's in? Is the child's father present? Is the household chaotic? Is the household unstable? Meaning a lot of traffic in and out the house, no set structure, no set bedtime, homework disciplines, chores. Like, what is that environment like? Is the environment volatile? Right? How do they handle anger and frustration? How do they communicate? Do they sit down and try to solve things like this? Do they talk like this? Or are they yelling, screaming, and cursing? That matters. Because if that is the environment and you put him in the closet, he's still in the same environment, nothing changed. If there's no structure in the home, then nothing changes. He's going to come back into an unstructured environment. Think about people who come, young adults that come out of prison and they come back into their chaotic homes where they have more meals 3 times a day in prison than they do in their own homes. We don't know. Are his needs adequately being met? Is this home or this experiment just another reflection of what he's used to? He's used to this kind of bizarre punishment. Right? We got to really think about these things. So here's some possible solutions. I know everyone's always talking about what are the solutions? What are the solutions? Anybody talk about the problem? What's the solutions? But the thing is, the solutions are not really that difficult to comprehend. Now, it might be difficult depending on the community you live in. It might be difficult for some of your resources. It might be, and when I say resources, I'm not just talking about financial resources. I'm talking about the community you live in with the resources in your community. It might be difficult to accomplish these things, but we got to get creative. So some possible solutions. Have you ever considered therapeutic services? If you have Medicaid, the only thing you have to do is call the number of your card and ask them to give you a list of organizations or individuals that accept Medicaid that's in your plan, so you can go take your child to get therapeutic services. They are there. When I think it was President Obama, if I'm not mistaken, when they passed that initiative, the mental health initiative, they opened up a large track for Medicaid recipients to be able to receive therapeutic services. And there's a lot of quality healthcare centers, that's what they're called, all over the place, across the nation. So you just got to call. You have to ask, who accepts my insurance? So that you can take your child in for therapeutic services. Also, what kind of community organizations or community center activities are involved or are available in the community? Is there a Boys and Girls Club? Is there a YMCA? Is there any arts and crafts set up for the community? Are there free karate programs, free basketball programs, or other types of sports that are in the community? I know we have them in my community, and there's things that I've put my children in when they were younger. Now my children are older, right, with the exception of the 7-year-old. But if you ask around, you ask questions, and you speak to people, and you make a diligent effort to follow up and put your child in these things, there are services out there. And I don't care if it's not, fancy and stuff. Get your children involved in something that is productive. Are there any town sports? I know in New York City, see, I love New York City. I know a lot of y'all talk smack about us New Yorkers, but one thing about us New Yorkers, I don't care if you come from the most affluent area in New York or the poorest area in New York, we have access to services. Now you got to use them. You got to call and make your appointments. There's things that you have to do on your behalf, but it doesn't mean that they're not there. We have access to services. I did PAL when I was growing up. I did karate for free when I was growing up. I went to dance in Kingsbridge Heights when I was growing up. There's a lot of things that I did when I was growing up. My mother had no money. My mother raised us on welfare in a one-bedroom apartment. And I did a lot of things growing up. You look for them, you'll find them. You may not be a religious person. You don't have to be a religious person. My mother wasn't a religious person, but the church had a lot of activities, and she used to put us in vacation Bible school and other things. Now, did we go to Sunday services growing up as a child? No, we did not. But we did go into the church to do things, and they let us in, and they let us participate in the activities. Now, I'm not pushing it on you. I'm just saying that there are things out there, but you got to look for them. Even the library. My mother was big on the library. This is a woman who only went but so far in her education. Right? But one thing she didn't play games with was the library, because the library had a lot of programs and activities for children. There's a lot of things there for the children, but you got to go to the library and you have to ask them what's there, what kind of events they have going on. There's movie nights at the library and all types of other things. There's arts and crafts at the library. There's game night at the library. We play different board games. There's activities there, but you got to ask your library what they have set up. Right? But most importantly that I want to talk about is parental involvement. And this is the part where a lot of people overlook it. See, we can't keep putting the blame outside of ourselves. We can't. What does your parental involvement look like outside of discipline? Outside of corporal punishment? What does your parental involvement look like with your child? Do you guys go on outings? It doesn't necessarily cost money to go on outings. You can go to the park and go hiking in the park or walk around state parks. You can just take walks around the community. One thing I used to do when my children were younger is after we ate dinner, we will walk a mile. We'll walk the community. And we'll be racing each other. We'll be playing I Spy. Y'all know that game? Like we were walking like I Spy something orange, red, and it's sitting high. And I'll have my kids looking around. What? Oh, the kite. And they will point out things, right? No, not the kite. What is it, Mom? And they'll be doing stuff while we're walking. They have no idea. They just want to be around mommy. And this is after my divorce. Now, granted, my children weren't raised without a father for a long time, right? But 3 years, three years of their life is pretty decent. It's a pretty long time. And this is what I did with them. They just want to be with mommy because mommy worked so much. And when I came home, those little simple things cost me no money to walk the community and play I Spy with my kids. It cost me no real money to do bus rides and train rides. We ain't going nowhere. We just get on a bus and a train. We just go. And we look at the scenery. Or I'm teaching them different things of how to get to certain places. If something was to happen to mommy, I'm going to show you guys how to get to grandma's house. We're going to take the bus as opposed to me driving to grandma's house. Different things. Cards. We got Uno in his house. We got the matching card games in his house. We put them down, face down, and then we all got to turn them over and try to match, and whoever has the most matches win. We do that. There's board games in his house. Simple things. Tic-tac-toe. You just need a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen or a crayon or a marker and play tic-tac-toe. It doesn't cost much. It's parental involvement. Thank you for that donation. I really do appreciate that. It's parental involvement. Creating a YouTube channel with your children, right? Thinking about the world we live in right now, when everything is so electronic and social media based, right? But I'm creating a YouTube channel with my 7-year-old right now. Now, do I think it's going to be an awesome channel? No, but this kid loves to play Roblox or Roblox, whatever that game is. You know, he plays that and he wants to go on YouTube, even though there's 100,000 YouTubers that play Roblox online. But guess what? He wants to do it. So now we're making a project out of it. Do you know what that's going to do for him when he get excited when he sees himself on his channel? Right? This is awesome. Eric said, I used to play chess with my children. Do you know what chess does for one's brain? It helps them to think critically. I used to play chess with my children my oldest son, when he was younger. I used to play chess. And if you guys watch any of my previous videos from years ago, you already know that this kid is like a genius, right? My son is like a genius. So his brain was really developed. You know, I shared IQ scores with you guys before on my old channels, my old videos that were out there, shared IQ scores, and you see that he is superior in his thinking. He has been like that since a little kid. And these are the type of things that I used to do with him. Right? How about something as simple as reading with your child? Something as simple as reading with your child. Somebody says these smartphones are raising the kids nowadays. You're right. You're right, Kokolo. But let me tell you something about that. Teach your child how to make money off the smartphones. Don't just let them play it. Give them the understanding behind it and help them to understand what they are playing is making somebody else rich. We got to change the engagement. We got to change the conversation, but we have to be involved with our children. So now I say this to say we're always asking for what is the solution. And oftentimes the solution is us. Right? Oftentimes the solution is us. And we can't fall off. We can't do something today and then tomorrow we back to a regular scheduled program. We can't do something today and then tomorrow our dating life is more important. Or our drinking and drugging is more important. We can't do stuff like that. If you're not consistent with your parenting, how do you expect your child to be consistent? If you don't show up consistently for your child, what effect do you think is going to have on your children? Right? I'm not trying to be funny, but these are the things that we have to really think about. Thank you for all those donations that have come through. And I know some people send donations to CashApp. Or you guys inbox me, ask me about that. It's on the screen. But I thank you so much for that donations. On Sunday, I'm going to be reading off all the donations that I received in CashApp, Venmo, and PayPal. So I really do appreciate you guys. I just want to make that out there. So I know I don't always say thank you, but it's not because I'm not thankful. I'm very thankful, right? But I want you guys to really think about that kind of stuff. So that pretty much concludes tonight. This is not a judgment call on the mother. This is understanding the effects that it can have when it's not done correctly, when you don't have the support systems behind you to do it correctly. This is about analyzing, will it be effective being that the child is still in the same environment? Will it be effective? This is also about challenging yourself to see if you have some unmet psychological needs and unmet emotional needs. And are you transferring those things onto your child? And the reason why I'm saying that, because oftentimes some people would say, you know, my child need counseling. I got to put my child in counseling. And when I hear them, I'm like, in my head, I don't say this out loud, family, but in my head, I'm like, how about I'll start with you? Because clearly you need counseling. And we know this as therapists, right? And I'm being funny, but come on, how many of us is in the room? Y'all know I'm not the only therapist in here because y'all be emailing me all the time. I'm not the only therapist in here. But you guys know it's called the identified patient. The child becomes the identified patient. But in reality, the fact is the parent needs the counseling. So we're in denial of our own clinical state or our own psychological state. Thank you so much for that, Sid. I thank you for that donation. And yes, I'm looking forward to Sunday too when we talk about HR1 and HR5. I really do appreciate that. But we can't get on the phone and say our child needs therapy. And when I'm asking the people that's calling, how old is the child? They're telling me 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. What is going on with the child? He just won't listen, or she acting up in school, or all these different things. and they're so hyper on the phone, and they go into all these types of things that's unrelated for why they're calling, and I automatically know maybe family therapy is the right one. But you know what? When I offer family therapy, I think it might be wise for us to start with family therapy. Guess what you think happens most of the time? Guess what you think happens most of the time? They don't think they need the therapy. They're calling for their child, not me. You created the environment your child is living in. You need therapy too. So, family, I thank you guys so much for all of your blessings. I know it's been way over our hour, and I thank you guys for joining me and staying with me. Ladies that are signed up for tomorrow's coaching class, I appreciate all of my attendees to the IRIS program. We will be going over the second insecure attachment style, and that's anxious avoidance, and that I'm going to be showing you guys when that part of you kicks in based off what you experienced in your childhood, how you start to act in relationships, and how it can be harming your current relationship or potential partners that you are seeking to engage with. So be a part of that discussion, be a part of that class. If you come, bring a pen and a paper. You must have your coaching book, because the stuff that I go over is real. So I love every last one of you guys, and have a blessed night. And I'll see you guys all on Sunday when we talk about HR1 and HR5. And I hope you guys were able to stomach the clinical side of me tonight, where I had to take it down, because this is not a laughing matter. This is a serious matter, and we have to get right as a community. Thank you so much for tuning in to Mental Health Fridays with your girl, Dr. Shonna. Have a blessed one, and good night.